So in 2010, Ohio State defeated Michigan 37-7. That is a 50-second win that should be counted back to Ohio State's ledger clearly. So recently, Reggie Bush received back his Heisman Trophy. I'm not going to go into the circumstances involving Reggie Bush, but based on today's rules, today's approach, what happened back in 2003, 2004 is fine. Similarly, but actually not affecting the play on the field. So this is how I separate this Ohio State incident in 2010. And if there's anybody watching or listening that doesn't know what happened, 5 Ohio State players were suspended for the 2011 season, or the first, I believe, 6 games of the season for 2011 for awards, trinkets, accomplishments that they received for Big Ten championship win over Michigan, Sugar Bowl championship in 2010. And so those players that broke the rules of the NCAA, which are, we can argue all day on whether the rules are valid. I do think that there's legitimacy to having these collegiate players keep their trophies, at least through their eligibility. Then they can do whatever they want after their eligibility runs out. But I don't think it's that much to ask that they keep their trophies, at least for the duration of the time that they are in school, and that they honor those trophies and don't hand them out to anybody on the street or do whatever they want with them, get tattoos. But at the same time, those individual players, they were penalized for the issues involved. And I understand Jim Tressel had knowledge of the situation, and therefore he represents the school, and the school was penalized with the vacated wins, 12 of them, and a Big Ten championship and a Sugar Bowl championship and a win against Michigan. And I am not completely in the camp of vacated wins solving everything. A lot of people think that they shouldn't even exist. That should not be a penalty. And I do agree that they penalize a lot of innocent people. Anytime you vacate wins and take away wins and championships from innocent people that had nothing to do with the infractions. However, if there was cheating involved that resulted in wins, then I believe that's a fair punishment, because you did something to cheat the system, whether that's you passed players that shouldn't have been passed in terms of classwork, or you induced them to campus when that was against the rules so that they could be eligible and play for your team, and then they went out and won games, or you spied, whatever you did to achieve these victories, then the vacated wins, in my estimation, applies. However, we're talking about players who were eligible that won the games, and then after the fact broke NCAA laws, rules, and sold their awards, but the wins were already achieved by eligible players. Therefore, when are these wins going to be reinstated? Because it's such a farce. The team went 12-1. They won the Sugar Bowl. They won the Big Ten championship.
Yeah. It is interesting. You probably take each of these cases on a case-by-case basis. And, I would agree. There are some people in our profession who will write about the Michigan rivalry and just quote the number that was actually played on the field. And then the schools will, sometimes one school will produce one number and the other school will produce another number. Ohio State has to produce the number that says that the win in 2010 was vacated. Whereas, sometimes Ohio State will play schools that produce the overall number, even including Ohio State beating them that year. So, there's a lot of discrepancies in that regard of who pays attention to what. But, who writes the history? I don't know. It's all kind of, I write it one way and somebody else writes it another. Sometimes I'll put the disclaimer in there that, the 2010 win that they had was vacated and not included in this total, or this total does include the 2010 win that officially was vacated by NCAA sanctions. The whole thing, you know, here we are, it's 2024, it's 14 years later, and it doesn't change anything. It doesn't award anybody a championship or anything like that because of it. So, I don't know. I'm just of a mind that I don't like the people who were not impacted by that, who weren't involved in the wrongdoing, were impacted by that and have had kind of their legacies questioned or whatever, or their accomplishments questioned. Oh, you only beat Michigan twice. Well, no, we beat them 3 times. They're just not counting the third one, or whatever it was. So, I don't. I don't agree with that. I think people who were innocently involved in this, it shouldn't be that big a thing. I think about, Chris Carter took money from an agent and was ruled out for the, part or all of the 87 season. And he declared for the supplemental draft and he left Ohio State. And it took a few years for him to be welcomed back. He was persona non grata for a while. They said that Ohio State had to disassociate itself from Terrell Pryor for 5 years. They could not have him. And I don't know if it was he was banned from campus or what, but what a bunch of dumbassery. He's an American citizen. I'm an American citizen. He didn't break any laws or anything. It just, the whole thing is just so stupid. And not only that, I think about, Chris Carter, as his life has gone on, has been a mentor to any number of young people. And I think if Terrell Pryor was in the same, frame of mind or same place of his life, to where he was comfortable sitting down with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids and saying, you got to understand, what you're getting here is not real, that there is going to be a day, comes up where reality is going to hit you in the face. And that's what you need to prepare for. Then if he wants to bring that message to somebody at Ohio State or anybody anywhere, if he's comfortable and in the place of his life, he wants to do that, they should take full advantage of that. So, and I'm not saying that that's been discussed or debated, but he should be welcomed back with everybody else. They won the Rose Bowl with him. If they do a reunion, he should be allowed to come back just like everybody else. And, it just, we're all people, that's just kind of my feeling on it. And I just, I don't see the point in, making a big deal about it, 15 years later. It doesn't change the rest of my day today. I'm going to go get lunch and, go figure out something to do with the rest of my day. I wasn't directly involved though. So, it's maybe different for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are all just people and it doesn't impact us. So it's like the wins aren't going to change who they are if you give the wins back. Reggie Bush, that's a Heisman thing. OSU getting those wins back, that's an NCAA thing. I think they're two completely different things. And in terms of impacting people who didn't do anything, Gene Smith kind of impacted the entire 2012 team by not punishing the players who had done wrong by the NCAA, or by choosing not to opt out of a bowl, choosing not to implement a bowl ban, a self ban. You're risking the entire next season. And so I think Jim Tressel I don't think he loses sleep over this. He's always been like, football is one part of what he does, and then it's never been like what identifies him, basically. And so he can move on while still remaining connected. Like he doesn't go crazy like some other former coaches that I won't mention, but you can look at the larger picture and just think about, what kids were helped, what did we leave behind, and what did we put forward. And, with reinstating wins, I think what little power the NCAA has, when you're picking up the scabs of the NCAA, I think there are much more important things to pick at. And, where does where does it stop then, Mark? And is it just wins, and is it everybody's vacated wins as long as there's no cheating? Like I don't have a problem with that 2010 season being wiped away. I will say that this is the 120th game coming up, Ohio State and Michigan, and Ohio State lists the series as 61, 51, and 6. Michigan in their game notes last year had it 61, 52, and 6. So they still credit Ohio State with a win. And so if you want, just read the Michigan game notes and you'll see that 52nd win in there. And they haven't removed that yet. So.
Well, it annoys me on two fronts. Steve addressed one, and that's that the players involved, 90, 95 players involved that have nothing to do with the situation, they officially don't have those wins, don't have a Sugar Bowl championship, don't have a win against Michigan, don't have a share of the Big Ten championship, all those things that they can't officially lay claim to. And number two, we all delve all off season in these all-time rankings and lists and compilations of numbers of wins and winning percentage and Big Ten championships and all of that. Well, you're taking a 12-1 season away from a team. Well, you're giving them the loss, but they're taking away 12 wins that at this point are pretty decisive in all-time winning percentage. And that should continue on and on in regards to just, again, playing catch up as this program is in terms of Big Ten championships, although they've got more Big Ten championships since joining the Big Ten than Michigan does. That never gets brought up.
Well, it's because it puts Ohio State in a good light, Mark. You wouldn't want that. Not you, other people.
So that was my axe to grind. And I will grind it at other occasions, I'm sure, at some point.